lot has been said and written about a mother's love for her child. It's a bond that's celebrated the world over. But what happens when it's challenged or perhaps misunderstood? Mrs. Chatterjee vs. Norway, an Indian legal drama, was released across the country on the 17th of March 2023. The film stars Rani Mukherjee in the lead and is based on the true story of an immigrant Indian mother who battled against an entire nation to win the custody of her children. While the film is running successfully in theaters in India and across the world, it has also set a new benchmark in the country it is based on, Norway, registering the highest ever weekend collection in Norway for any Hindi language film. However, it has drawn a sharp response from the Norway embassy in India. The Norwegian ambassador to India, Hans Jakob Frydenlund, has criticized the film. In an opinion piece for the Indian Express, a newspaper, he stated that the film contains factual inaccuracies and misrepresentations about Norway's policies on family life.
It's not about villainizing Norway or anything. It's a journey of a mother that is there in the film. It is an incident that happened with Sagarika. It happened in 2011. The Indian government was involved. The Indian government supported her, and why would an entire government support her if there was no base to a story?
I condemn the false statement by the Norwegian ambassador in the papers today. He spoke about my case without even having any decency to ask me. He should take this as an opportunity to sensitize Norwegian care workers about the cultural prejudice. Even 10 years after, I have single-handedly brought up my children so well in full view of the world. When the whole world can see the beautiful bond between my children and me, the Norwegian government continues to spread lies against of me.
The Bollywood film has turned the spotlight on Norway's intrusive child protection policy, which is allegedly being compared to state-sanctioned child abduction. In this episode, we dig deeper into the issue to find out. What is the role of Norway's child welfare services? The real-life story of Sagarika Chakraborty, whose book, The Journey of a Mother, inspired the film Mrs. Chatterjee vs. Norway. The legalities involved in the case, and the ongoing custody dispute between an Indian family and the German authority. Norway is known for its social welfare system, which provides citizens with health care, education, and other basic needs. However, the country has been the subject of controversy due to its policy of removing children from their biological families. According to the website of the government of Norway, the primary duty of the child welfare services is to ensure that children and young people living under conditions that may harm their health and development will receive the necessary assistance when they need it, and to contribute to giving children and young people safe conditions for growing up. The Norwegian Child Protection Service, also known as Barnevern, is responsible for protecting children from abuse and neglect. Under Norwegian law, the state has a duty to intervene if a child is in danger, and in some cases, this may mean removing the child from their home. According to a report published by the Sunday Guardian in 2018, the Norwegian Child Welfare Agency, Barnevernet, removes around 1,500 children from their parents every year. This amounts to around 4 children per day, all year round.
The child protection system, which exists in most of the European countries, or the foster care as we call it as we popularly understand, it stems from the fact that the state believes that the state is a guardian of the minor children. who are residing within the jurisdiction of that particular country or that particular state. And they feel that they have the right to decide what is in the best interest of the children.
Many immigrant families in Norway have accused Barnevernet of taking away their children without proper justification, citing in some cases even cultural differences as the reason. Sagarika Chakraborty was one such parent who fought with the Norwegian authorities for the custody of her children. WION spoke with Sagarika, and this is her story. In 2007, when Sagarika Chakraborty got married, she moved with her husband to Norway and settled in the city of Stavanger. A few years later, they became a family of 4. Sagarika says they were living like a normal family with their 2 children, until one day their world turned upside down. In 2011, child welfare authorities knocked on their door.
मुझे पूछे कि आपने ब्रेकफास्ट बनाया, मैंने बोला कि हाँ। तो उसके बाद हस्बैंड को पूछा कि आप ब्रेकफास्ट क्यों नहीं बनाया। तो उन्होंने बोला ये थोड़ी ना मेरा काम है, मेरा ऑफिस है, ये है वो है, ये सब बोलना शुरू कर दिया। उन्होंने देखा कि हस्बैंड और वाइफ के बीच में थोड़ा झमेला लगा देती हूँ, मतलब बच्चे लेना बहुत इजी हो जाएगा, उसका कंसंट्रेशन हमसे हट जाएगा। और उसके बीच में ये लोग बच्चे को फोर्सिबली लेके, और हमने देखा कि वो बच्चे को लेके चले जा रहा है, मैं तो उसके पीछे पीछे मैं भागना शुरू कर दिया। वो लोग गाड़ी लेके जा रही थी, हम उसके पीछे भागना शुरू कर दिया और मैं गिर गई।
As with many aggrieved parents, Chakraborty's troubles started at her son's kindergarten. It was a report of concern from the nursery school that was a red flag for the child welfare services. And just like that, Barnevernet stepped in and whisked the 2 children away, questioning Sagarika's ability to raise them. But how can a state-run agency remove children from their biological parents? On what grounds?
Well, the procedure that...
To understand the legalities involved in the case, we spoke with Suranya Iyer, a New Delhi-based lawyer who has been working on a pro bono basis with families facing child protection proceedings abroad.
They said about Sagarika that her breastfed 3-month-old baby used to look at the care workers when they walked in, and therefore it showed that she was not attached to the mother. I mean, and this is written in black and white in the documents. And similarly, in the case of the son, so the care workers would say that, he bangs his head on the floor whenever his mom comes to pick him up, and he fears and rejects. Therefore, he fears and rejects. That after the children were taken into care, the authorities continued to give reports about the children. So head banging is alleged to be the evidence of Sagarika's bad mothering. But when the special educator, 2 months after the children have now been removed from the parents, says that the boy is he's head banging, but we found ways, if we let him be, it's just his way of playing.
The case led to a diplomatic row between India and Norway. The Indian authorities put pressure on the Norwegian embassy in New Delhi, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Children, Equality and Social Inclusion in Oslo.
In Sagarika's case, the reason why the children were sent back was wholly and solely because the government of India took this up as an issue and absolutely insisted that Indian children have to be sent back to India. And if there's any, doubts about the parents, then they can be placed in the extended family. Now, Sagarika came back on the understanding that the children would be sent back to India, and then, she could, the matter would move from there. But her husband chose to stay on in Norway, and the in-laws refused access to the children. So now she had on her hands a double procedure. I mean, she's going to have to prove to the Indian child welfare authorities that she's a fit mother, And she's also going to have to fight this custody battle with her in-laws' family to get the babies back. The children came back in April of 2012, and she was only able to finally get them back in January of the following year.
वृंदा घाट सबसे ज़्यादा, क्योंकि पहले तो मेरे पापा वृंदा घाट के पास ही गए थे, और जब भी उन्होंने गया वृंदा घाट के पास, उन्होंने पहले ही प्रेसिडेंट के साथ मीट करवाया दिल्ली में जाके मम्मी पापा को लेके, और बहुत सारे लोग, पार्टी लीडर्स, एवरीबडी केम टू द प्रोटेस्ट। सुषमा स्वराज बहुत हेल्प किया था, उन्होंने प्रोटेस्ट में शामिल हुआ था, और उन्होंने बोला था कि नॉर्वे के खिलाफ बोला था कि ये तो एक किडनैपिंग का बिजनेस है, तो बच्चे और मम्मी पापा से उठा लेते हैं, तो ये कैसा कंट्री है, ये तो एक किडनैपिंग है। तो वही चीज़ उन्होंने बहुत, मतलब सब लोग हेल्प किया।
It has been more than a decade since Sagarika got custody of both of her children, but even today, recounting the painful memories of the past is difficult for her, and one can understand why.
बहुत इमोशनल चीज़ इसमें जुड़े हुए, कितना मैंने सहना आपको बोल नहीं पाऊंगी मैं, मेरे आंखों में आंसू आ जाते हैं, मैं कंट्रोल नहीं कर पा रही हूँ।
Sagarika moved out of Kolkata to earn a livelihood. Today, she works for an information technology company in the national capital region. But she thinks about her children day and night and manages to speak to them every evening.
It's actually a huge trauma in my life actually, because मुझे इतना दिन बाद भी मतलब पुराना जो भी है मैंने लड़ाई किया है बच्चे को आने के लिए, मतलब अभी भी मुझे वैसे ही लड़ाई करना पड़ रहा है पूरा फैमिली का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेने के लिए, क्योंकि मेरे पास मेरे हस्बैंड कभी मेरे साथ कभी कांटेक्ट नहीं किया, पैसे भी कभी नहीं दिया है मुझे, तो पूरा आई एम अ सोल ब्रेड विनर इन माई फैमिली, सो आई एम टेकिंग ऑल द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ माई फैमिली। अभी भी लड़की बोलो उसको इक्वल समझना बहुत ज़रूरी होता है। और सबसे बड़ी बात है, शादी हो गया मतलब ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ वो बच्चे पालेंगे और घर का काम करेंगे और उसको कुछ अलग टाइप से उसको मतलब उसके ऊपर बोझ मतलब ऐसे टाइप का उसको देखते हैं इन लॉस फैमिली, ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए। मतलब तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि अभी मॉडर्न एज है, सब लोग मतलब हस्बैंड वाइफ फैमिली सब बहुत लिबरल होना चाहिए, जो उसको सपोर्ट सब लोग सबको सपोर्ट करेंगे, ऐसे टाइप का फैमिली होना चाहिए।
Sagarika's case is not the first or only time Barnevern faced criticism for its approach and actions. In 2015, 5 children were removed from a Romanian-Norwegian family by the Norwegian Child Welfare Services. The case sparked widespread protests in Norway and Romania. Hundreds of people took to the streets to denounce Barnevernet. Eventually, in 2016, the family regained custody of their children. In recent years, Norway has been found guilty of violating the human rights of families. At the European Court of Human Rights, Norway is facing the highest number of legal complaints, and most of these pertain to the grievances of parents. Germany, another European country, came into the limelight due to the ongoing case with an Indian family. WION spoke with the parents of Ariha Shah to bring you their story. In 2018, an Indian couple, Dhara and Bhavesh Shah, moved to Germany. Bhavesh started working as a software engineer in Berlin on a work visa. 2 years later, the couple was blessed with a girl child. Ariha Shah was just 7 months old when she suffered an injury. The parents took her to a nearby hospital. What happened next was inexplicable, as the parents tell.
एक डॉक्टर बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं कोई ट्रीटमेंट की जरूरत नहीं, एज इट इज रहने देखते हैं। दूसरा डॉक्टर बोल रहे नहीं हमें इंजरी है तो हम स्टिचेस देने पड़ेंगे। फिर जब बच्ची को 23 सितंबर 2021 को बच्ची को लेके गए, तभी बच्ची को तो नर्स संभाल रही थी। हमने बोला बच्ची को नर्स संभाल रही, डॉक्टर से बात करने के लिए आपको बुला रहे हैं। और लाइक एक सेकंड में आपको बोला जाता है कि आपके बच्चे नहीं है, हमने उनको हमारे कब्जे में ले लिया है.
They had noticed this bleeding in the diaper, and the hospital said there's an injury in the private parts, and so they were placed under suspicion of abuse. And the hospital told them that it seems to be fine and you can take the child back. 5 days later, this was over the weekend. So after the weekend, they're not quite satisfied, and so they take the child back to the hospital. This time the hospital says that there's an injury, and instead of admitting its own mistake, it turns around and blames them, accuses them of having done it. There was not just a child protection case, but also a police investigation into sexual abuse.
In September 2021, Dhara and Bhavesh's life fell apart when Ariha was taken into child care custody by German authorities.
After all the police investigation, it took around like 2 or 3 months. On February 2022, the sexual abuse charges were dropped, and the main sexual abuse charges, like the primary I can say, was on her.
It was totally me whom they were suspecting that I have sexually abused my 7-month-old daughter. So this was like unbelievable for me. When they find out there was no sexual abuse of the child, then they tried to say mother's mental health is not fine. So every time, why they are focusing on mother only? Because it's very difficult for them to separate a child from a mother.
The case came to the notice of the Indian government. In December last year, Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar raised the issue with his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock.
This relates to a child called Ariha Shah. We have concerns that the child should be in her linguistic, religious, cultural and social environment. I think it's a very delicate matter. There are privacy issues involved in it. So I think both governments are handling it with that very much in mind.
As a mother of 2 daughters, I would like to say that for me the well-being of Ariha Shah is very important to me. So I have received detailed information about this case. I can assure you that the child is well, and for everybody in India and for everybody in Germany and the German authorities most particularly, the child's well-being is the first priority. As has been said by my distinguished colleague, it is about privacy rights as well, so we cannot say more at this point. The case is still pending in court.
In February 2022, the criminal investigation against the parents was closed without charges. However, the couple is yet to get custody of their child. Why has there been no headway in the case?
Hospital, which placed them under this suspicion, also put them through an evaluation by their forensic psychologist, which the parents, agreed to go to, even though they hadn't been given any medical records. And that forensic psychologist gave a report ruling out sexual abuse. So the same hospital which placed them under suspicion issues a report ruling out sexual abuse. Still the child isn't returned. Parents are told you have to undergo a psychological evaluation to see your parenting capacity. This whole process takes a year. They are interviewed without a translator in their language, and the interactions with the baby and the parents are observed. At the end of this, in December last year, this is a court-appointed psychologist says that the child can go back to the parents. But the child services have again filed saying no, they don't want the child to be returned.
At present, Ariha is growing up at a foster care home in Berlin, speaking German and understanding the culture. Dhara, the mother, has missed many of her child's developmental milestones, and that is her biggest regret.
It's very painful for the mother कि वो अपने बच्चे को देख नहीं पा रही है, उसको अपने हाथ से खाना नहीं खिला पा रही है, जब वो पहला शब्द बोलती है माँ पापा जो भी वो सुन नहीं पा रही, उसको अपनी उंगली पकड़ के चलना नहीं सिखा पा रही है, उसको बच्चे के साथ खेल नहीं पा रही है, उसको जो भी सीखना है उसमें हेल्प नहीं कर पा रही है. बहुत ही मुझसे ज़्यादा शायद बदनसीब मदर नहीं होगी क्योंकि वो अपने बच्चे को नहीं कर पा रही है कुछ भी।
Dhara hasn't lost all hope. Each day, she prays to be reunited with her child, and she believes it will happen soon.
MEA से तो मेरी बस एक ही गुजारिश है, जैसे डॉक्टर जयशंकर सर ने खुद स्टेटमेंट दिया कि बच्चे के राइट्स प्रिजर्व होने चाहिए, हमारी यही रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप प्लीज़ बच्चे के राइट्स प्रिजर्व करिए। जैसे MEA ने नॉर्वे से, US से बहुत सारे बच्चों को इंडिया रिपाट्रिएट करवाया है, वैसे सेम अरिया के लिए भी वो स्ट्रांगली आवाज़ उठाए और अरिया को जल्द से जल्द इंडिया रिपाट्रिएट करे, यही हमारी उनसे उम्मीद है।
Ariha Shah's case is an ongoing battle between the parents and the German authorities. There are thousands of similar cases in Germany. However, there is the other side. Cases of child deaths and abuse are alarmingly high and widespread in Germany. According to German Police Crime Statistics 2021, every third day one child dies as a result of abuse. Every day 12 children are hospitalized because they were ill-treated. State intervention becomes necessary in many cases where child abuse is a reality. In 2021, German youth welfare offices called Jugendamt took 47,500 children and young people into temporary care for their protection. So, when does the state intervene? Germany sets out 4 categories of child endangerment. Signs of neglect and signs of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse are the reasons for taking children and young people into foster care.
Particularly in Western Europe, the ability of the adult to talk to a child and indeed genuinely, openly listen to the child's opinions, their choices that they make, their point of view, I think they've developed it over a period, right? And that is a part of the culture. Children often are expected to leave home and fend for themselves, even if they go to college, by the time they're 18. And now that's a common practice in the UK or I'm sure in Western Europe. And the reason why they can do it is also because the state takes care. They take care of these kids. So, if they go to a college, if they go to a particular place where there are, living quarters or hostels for young people, there's also safety and other things that are, taken care of. But generally speaking, if you look at the love and the childcare and the nurturing, etc., I don't think that it's very different. I think they also love their children very much and they really take care.
For this reportage, WION reached out to Norwegian and German authorities for their comments on the subject and related cases. We haven't received any response till the broadcasting time of the show. Providing children with a safe and nurturing environment is of paramount importance. Proponents of child protection policy argue that the state has a duty to intervene to protect children from any harm. Does it also imply separating children from their biological parents? The debate continues.